It's a brand new day. Gotta take it on my way. Gotta take it on my way. It's a brand new day. Gotta take it on my way. Gotta take it on my way.
On the border of Mount Winans and Westport communities, history lies. Once known as the City of the Dead for colored people, Mount Auburn Cemetery is one of the largest places of rest for African Americans. Today, we learn a bit of history and witness the search for Frank Warfield, an iconic player and manager in the Negro Baseball League, a search through 34 acres of land and hundreds of years of history.
I'm the volunteer research coordinator for Mount Auburn Cemetery, which belongs to Sharp Street Church in Baltimore. My duties are to field inquiries about the burial sites of families' loved ones. The ministers at Sharp Street Church were quite active in Baltimore in the late 1800s. There was no place in Baltimore City for black people to be buried. This is a National Historic Site. It is more important now because of the development that we protect this land. A lot of them across the country are in places that are valuable property to developers. And it's easy to just move the headstones and say, it used to be a cemetery here. Well, what happened to the people? Nothing happened to the people, they're still here. Prime example of what happened at Laurel Cemetery on Bel Air Road here in Baltimore. This is who Morgan's football stadium is named after. There are a lot of famous people. Baltimore's history over the past 150 years, there's samples of it all over here. The founder of Omega Psi Phi is buried here. Bishop Love, he was one of the pastors in the church. They just put a nice bronze, they changed what they had and put a larger stone. One of the original members of Phi Beta Sigma is down here on this side. Everywhere you look, there's somebody of prominence. There's a lot here. So just by doing the research for Mr. Warfield just brings me to the realization we don't have a clue how many famous people we have here. And of course the Murphys, John Murphy, the founder of the Afro-American newspaper, is right over there. I've developed a process with my partner, Nancy Sheeds. We've gotten a pretty sophisticated system. But the problem is, our burial records tell us when the person was buried. Coming to the cemetery, A and B don't match, or 1 and 1 don't make 2. Nancy has documented 55,000 burials here already. The latest estimate is there are probably 70,000 burials here. Given a grant by Workers United a few years ago, they asked what was one of the priorities, what my priority was, and I said signage. People don't know where to go, which way to turn, what is this road's name? This is a soil probe. I use this tool to see what's underground. So what I'm looking for is something concrete. I got involved because my great-grandfather died in Baltimore in 1961. And I remember going to his funeral as an 8th grader. That was my first visit to the cemetery. This past fall, after 9 years, I located my great-grandfather's burial site. And what the clue for me, and this is how detailed this can get, near the cherry tree. Well, the cherry tree is a stump now. So that's where his marker went. So I was very pleased to be able to do that for my family. So the call that I got a couple of weeks ago was for a gentleman by the name of Frank Warfield. And the name was not familiar to me, so immediately Nancy and I started researching. Turns out Frank Xavier Warfield was a historic figure in Negro League baseball. There's a group in Ohio that wants to put a monument to Frank. He was born in 1897, died in 1932 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which the story just grows from there with every research project. Well, how did he get here? And why is he here? So then you go back and you look and you study a little more. So we develop a story. There's a story with each burial. So it tells me where he's buried. You know, he's buried, this record says that Frank is buried at number 2 Saints Rest Walk. This whole section, all the way down to the road, is Saints Rest. So this is actually a copy of Mr. Warfield's burial record. Bill! We got it! That's my usual chant when I see